All right. Well, definitely not the post game Ron and I wanted to do. Ohio State loses to Indiana 13-10 in a low scoring defensive battle that kind of came down to the wire. I'm Kris Drew. That's Ron James. Ron, I'm not going to ask how are you, but I do want to get right into the game because this was a frustrating loss. It felt like Ohio State went back to an offense that we don't like at all. And, we have to go another year without winning the Big Ten title game.
Absolutely. The Buckeyes set out every year with 3 goals, beat the team up north, win the Big Ten championship, and win the national championship. The Buckeyes only completed one of their goals last year. Let's hope that is not the case this year. They are currently 1-1 on their goals. They beat the team up north last week and then lose with a familiar score to Indiana in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, the score of that game. And it's funny because this game, the game flow of it felt like Ohio State was off to a pretty decent start, scoring in the first quarter. You felt like, okay, they were going to be able to lean on Indiana. I felt like Bo Jackson was getting a lot of holes. You kind of felt like, okay, we're slowly doing this slow dance to this team. We're going to punch them at some point and kind of put them away. And then the second half comes around and you see 0 points from Ohio State in the second half. They get shut out in half 2 by Indiana, who scored 7 in the third, and that's all they needed. If someone were to tell me that this, Matt Patricia's defense would hold Indiana to 13 points and say, oh, we won by 2 scores.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like we're doing a repeat of the show. I felt like we were watching a repeat of that game because every Ryan Day loss is starting to have a certain look to it. A missed field goal, red zone struggles, awkward play calling during the middle 8. These all are becoming staples of what a Ryan Day loss looks like. And, starting off, Ryan Day is the winningest coach of all time as far as win percentage. So you don't really have that large of a sample size, but the sample size is starting to grow to a point that we have a recipe for what a Ryan Day loss looks like. And man, it felt like the Buckeyes checked every box, not only of your traditional Ryan Day loss, but of all of the things that the Buckeye fans talked about this year of not wanting to be nitpicky, but things that were obvious flaws on this team that we've discussed throughout the year came back to bite the Buckeyes.
Yeah, man. And in this game, Ohio State, when the game opened up, felt like they had so much juice, right? Like the first Caden Curry hit, the Caleb Downs hit, they were flying around. They had so much juice. And then you kind of just started to see it kind of fade as the game went on. And by the end of it, they almost looked surprised. The defense did why are we not winning this game by multiple scores? We've been doing our job. We've been putting, these guys, we've been burying these guys. Why are we out here so much? And yet that's kind of how it went. And then, after about that 4th or 5th drive, Ron, I was getting the feeling, our offense doesn't have a lot of faith in what they're doing. And things feel very clunky right now. I don't like it.
Absolutely. You talk about a shift of momentum in the game. The start of the game, it looked like the Buckeyes were flying around at a different speed. And I thought we were going to be doing graphics about how Ohio State is proving themselves to be the much more physical team. You see the massive hit on Fernando Mendoza. You're glad that he's able to come back in the game. No one wants to see, this clash of titans happen and not have the starting quarterback. And then it just felt like that momentum shift. I mean, even early in the game, it looked like Mendoza was a little rattled and he settled into the game where it just felt like Julian Saying never shook that. And while the defense was constantly looking around, when are we going to take control of this game? Jim Knowles had to be at home on the couch pointing at the TV. I told you, because I mean, there's multiple times where Jim Knowles deserves his heaping of criticism for things that happened at Ohio State, but also won a national championship. But in some of the losses, Jim Knowles is looking over here like, hey, you hired me to be the head coach of the defense. I expected when I joined Ryan Day's staff, his team would be able to score more than 10 points. And this is the second time where you have a defensive coordinator looking over at Ryan Day like, hey, Mr. Offense, can we score a touchdown, please? And we saw a visit from our old friend from earlier in the season today during this game, Kris.
Who?
The Red Zone Monster. Yeah. This is a guy that has made an appearance on graphics all throughout our season this year on Bleacher Report, and we've talked about the troubles that the Red Zone Monster has given Brian Hartline and Ryan Day this season, and we wrote it off as, this play calling in the red zone is going to shift once these games of meaning arrive this season. I've made the joke that the Buckeyes red zone offense this year has looked like the 2003 Madden goal line playbook. It's so bland. It's so vanilla. They come out in these massive, heavy packages where everyone knows that they're running the ball. Ryan Day has the famous saying of, we want to be able to run the ball when everybody in the stadium knows that you're going to run the ball. That is not the case this year. I don't know. You don't have
Has it ever been the case in the Ryan Day era? Can we just give that up and just
no? I mean, I feel like they did it with success last year with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, but like you have 2 borderline first round backs, and I feel like what did they figure something out, or did you have 2 first round running backs? But I'm going to lend the to some of it has to do with the play calling, because we said, oh, they're going to spice things up once they get into these games, and no, some of the window dressing that we saw and pre-snap movement that we saw in the red zone and the confusion that the Buckeyes were able to create with misdirection left with Chip Kelly, because we've been saying for 13 weeks now, when the game is on the line and they're playing a game of meaning, we're going to see an elevation of play calling in the red zone. And I don't think we've seen that all year. And Kris, I want to toss the question to you. Do you think this is just what play calling is for Ohio State in the red zone? I mean, you're in the Big Ten championship at this point. You only have a few more games left. Or do you feel like maybe there were distractions for the play caller this week?
I think this just is who we are in the red zone, to be honest. Because, like, obviously, like, think about it, like early in the year, this was kind of like the red zone issues. And when are we at our best? We're at our very best when we're scoring from outside the red zone. I mean, if you look at the Michigan game, we were taking deep shots, right? Like, we had the deep shot to Jeremiah for him to get in, the deep shot to Cardinal Tate for him to get in. I mean, we were scoring from outside the red zone. And then the other touchdown we had in the red zone against Michigan, what did we do? The personnel package was all 3 wide receivers out there. We threw a slant. So, like, for me, when I see the heavy package stuff is egregious. Like, you have 3 guys who are fantastic receivers, and yet we see the tight ends more down there, and we're almost letting teams off the hook. Like, Indiana got let off the hook repeatedly because there were times where it's like it was just Carnell or it was just Jeremiah when it should be both of them and Brandon Ennis every time you're down there. And also, like, our run game looks better with the 3 wide. It looks better with less bodies in the box. Like, it looks better when Bo Jackson can do pick his way through things. And it feels like we're handicapping ourselves. We're handcuffing ourselves. And like, for the sake of like good football, like it's almost like there's like a philosophy out there. We get in the red zone, we should put the tight ends out there to give us more, punishment in the red zone. And it's so frustrating because we've seen this team run the ball from 11 personnel packages. We've seen this team run the ball with 3 wide receivers. And like, again, like you said it, it's creativity, right? It's like every time we go heavy, they know we're running the football. And guess what? If we throw the football, our passing concepts will look better with 3 great wide receivers out there. So it's just frustrating. It's frustrating I believe that our tight ends had more red zone targets than Jeremiah Smith today.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat right here, and our guy Terrell says throw the 13 and 14 personnel packages in the trash. Kris, I sent you a text during the game. Do you remember what it said?
No, maybe. No, I don't.
This offense looks like I've seen this offense before. We ran the Kyle McCord offense today. I mean, you see Jeremiah Smith with 144 yards like he's the only wide receiver out there, like the Marvin Harrison Jr.
And 52 of it came on one play.
And one play at the very end of the game. And then you talk about the 13 and 14 personnel packages. That was the frustration during the Marv years. It's like you got a Mecca Book out here and you're scheming stuff open for Cade Stover. And then today we're in the 4th quarter. Scheming plays open for Bennett Christian, the third string tight end. I don't understand this play calling, this avoidance of using zone 6. You're a wide receiver, for a reason. And then for some reason this season, the Buckeyes get in the red zone and they're like, anybody that's a tight end, get on the field right now.
It's hyper frustrating. It's just hyper frustrating. Like, this tight end room is good. It's not hyper elite. We're not Iowa. We're not those Georgia teams with Brock Bowers. There's no megastar in this tight end room. There's 2 megastars in this wide receiver room. And honestly, like I'd rather throw the ball to Bo Jackson than these tight ends in the red zone. It's so incredibly frustrating. And you can kind of see it coming because, like, we get to the point where it's like you're just running into the brick wall over and over and over again. And then, like, you get into all these, like, weird, like, 3rd and in-betweeners and, like, 4th and in-betweeners. And then, here we go. I can't believe we lost this game, Ron. You were down in the red zone, like, 3 times.
I can't believe we lost it. And the first thing that we talked about as far as the struggle was the red zone. And these are things that we've talked about all season on this program and just assumed, the Buckeyes, maybe in these games, they'll just find ways to start scoring before they get to the red zone and just hope that a game doesn't come down to something like this. Another thing that we've talked about all season, the struggles at the right guard position. You see Gabe Van Sickle come in later in the game for Tegra Shabula, having possibly his worst game all season.
Wait, not possibly. That was his worst performance by a mile and a half, and it's even more aided by the fact that he was allowed to hold the whole game and still getting done in all kinds of wrong. Tegra can't play on this football team, man. He can't.
I mean, you thought after he had a bounce back game against the team up north last week, we talked all season about Tegra Shabula having struggles most of the year last year throughout a national championship run, and then towards the postseason, decided to remember how to play football again. And I don't know what happened today. It looked like what we saw most of the season. And I feel like at this point, 13 games into the season, all of these questions that we ask, are these just things that they're going to clean up before the end of the year? Or is this who they are? A lot of these things are showing this is who they are, being that you have a Big Ten championship on the line, multiple pieces of hardware that we'll get into later, a Big Ten championship and a potential Heisman on the line. And the Buckeyes just go out there and show their biggest flaws. And we're 11 minutes into this postgame. You have to tip your cap to Indiana, showing how much they deserve to be on that field with the Buckeyes, not looking like the best team in the country. 5 sacks on the Buckeyes. The defense was relentless. They held 2 first-round wide receivers in check for the most part of the game. Yeah, Jeremiah has the yards, but at the end of the day, they have an L in the record column. So
in 10 points.
And just continuing to think about 13-10, we're going to have another fan base that's going to be posting that in our mentions. We talked about after the game last year. It felt like, or last week, it was such a relief, a weight off your shoulders. There's no one in college football that can disrespect or talk crazy to the Buckeyes. And the following week, life comes at you fast.
Yeah, agreed. And here we go. Like, here's the other part of it that I don't want to spend the whole, 30 minutes being hyper negative. The fact that this game,
I mean, it is a loss. I would imagine 30 minutes of talking about a loss is going to be negative. So
yeah, no. I mean, I'm trying to also glass half full side of it. Like, at least this year, Ohio State has not really had to address their red zone struggles, right? Because they've been winning everything. And hopefully, what you can hope from this, trying to pull something out of it, is that they realize that, the red zone play calling now cost them a game. Are we going to look in the mirror and try to address this? Because for most of the year, Ryan Day's done a really good job with just about everything else in terms of correcting mistakes without that mistake causing a loss, with everything except for, I think, the red zone stuff, right?
Exactly.
This was that. It's now caused the loss. We now have to look in the mirror. And, I'd rather it happen this game, knowing that you're Ohio State, you're still going to make the playoffs, than happen in round 1 or round 2, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're going to lose a game, you're going to do it now. And the Buckeye fans, I think they've been around the block a time or two after almost giving up on the season. At least fans wanted to after the Michigan loss, and there was still plenty to play for. And that's the glass half full mentality as far as coming out of this game. Yeah, you would like to see the Buckeyes win a Big Ten championship, but everything's still in front of them as far as winning a national championship. They look like they're going to have a first-round bye going into the playoffs. So you look for them to regroup, and hopefully they're able to have another one of those, famous meetings where they get things right. One of the big themes of that meeting last year, before the playoffs, after the loss to the team up north, was correcting things before they become an issue. And it felt like the red zone scoring has been an issue all year, and that wasn't something that they were able to correct. Something else that they didn't correct. Kris, I had a tweet on the timeline during the game. How do you justify not replacing the kicker after losing a game 13-10 to the team up north with 2 missed field goals? Kris, I don't like to, I say this all the time. After the second, third mistake, I can't even criticize the player anymore because it's not their fault. They're on scholarship. They're there to do a job, and the coach keeps putting them on the field. The fact that Ryan Day has continued to put Jaden Fielding, a kicker that has been incompetent numerous times throughout his career, and not only incompetent, you have leaned on him with conservative play calling and coaching with the idea that I'm going to put the hopes of Buckeye Nation and this entire team on a kid that has failed multiple times in this moment. I can't even blame Jaden Fielding anymore, because why is he the kicker that you're putting out there at this point? How many times do you have to learn this lesson? We've talked about the kicking and the special teams in the Ryan Day era and how it's been atrocious, how many times they've lost games. I don't know how after you missed that field goal against Georgia in an embarrassing fashion that they still loop on highlight clips of you can't be serious as far as attempts, that the Buckeyes aren't paying the best kicker in the country more money than running backs in the Big Ten. At what point, how many more games do you have to lose before you invest in the kicking position?
I don't know, but I thought they invested in it last year, and the other kid, I guess, just didn't win the battle. I guess I don't know. I mean, the kicker thing is not explainable, dude. And for him to miss that chip shot at that point is gross. It's gross. I thought of you immediately, and it's like, okay, like as soon as that happens, you know, okay, we lost the game. Because even if we get the ball back with a minute left, you trust Jaden Fielding to hit a kick. And look, I've defended Jaden Fielding for a long time. Talked about the kicks that he's missed have been in the cold. This is indoors. Like I can't defend it. He looked moment was way too big. He's not that good of a kicker. It's a chip shot. And you know what that's going to do moving forward now? It's going to tighten up your red zone play calling even more. I don't know.
Absolutely. There's just no explanation for a team like Ohio State to not be able to make a 25-yard field goal. I don't even know what the distance was, but it was a chip shot that shouldn't be missed. And the fact that you're playing conservative with a kicker that has blown numerous games, you have lost numerous games. I mean, you could argue that Ryan Day cost himself a national championship because of kicking, and you go out there with a kicker that's watched the games before. There's just no excuse for it. Kris, I wanted to talk about something that I felt like decided the game, and that was the middle eight. It's a phrase that Ryan Day has used all season to talk about how important it is to dominate the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half. The Buckeyes come out with, a Michigan-level conservative play calling towards the end of the first half, and then they come out and punt on their first drive in the second half. Kris, how disappointed were you with how conservative the Buckeyes played it going into the second half or going into halftime?
Super disappointed, man. What did Ryan Day tell us like 3 or 4 weeks ago? When it's time to step on the gas, we will. That time to step on the gas is supposed to be this game and the rest of the postseason, right? Like this, we're on the fast track. The temperature's nice. We have great wide receivers. Like this is a game where Ohio State should be playing tempo. This is a game where Ohio State should be taking advantage of the smaller Indiana D line and making them play a ton of plays by going fast up tempo and taking shots. Like if you want to slow down the pass rush, go fast. Gas the defensive line out because they're smaller and have to do a lot of speed rushes. Like for them to be hyper conservative, what Ryan Day promised us, told us verbatim, when it's time to step on the gas, I will. The gas pedal was there to be stepped. The button was there. It was there, and you just didn't hit it. And that's what I think is really frustrating, especially because we know how much you value the middle eight. Don't get into a slugfest with this team. Don't get into a spot where this team doesn't have to rotate because, look, here's the thing. Indiana is talented, but at the top. They're not really super deep. When you're Ohio State and you play this slow, essentially, you're allowing that team to get breather after breather after breather. Like, I want to maximize the possessions. And I understand it. You want to play game control, but maximize the possessions to at least strike some fear. Like, you're Ohio State. Like in the middle eight, it should be a track meet, Ron.
But Kris, why are you playing game control when you don't have Chris Boswell as your kicker? They're out there with a Pittsburgh Steelers game plan, playing Mike Tomlin ball not to lose when you don't have one of the greatest kickers of all time. Bingo. You have a college kicker that has lost you games before. The idea that we're going to play not to lose, it makes no sense because you don't have the personnel to play not to lose. You don't convert in the red zone. You don't have special teams. It was just a confounding game plan from Ryan Day and this staff as a whole. And you just hope going into the playoffs that they're able to figure this out because it was confusing. I just don't get it.
It was infuriatingly confusing. Like you're just watching possession after possession go by, and there's and also the lack of sense of urgency in the second half. Like when they went down, there was no urgency to kind of get this thing going, and that kind of confused and puzzled me. And meanwhile, look, Indiana didn't open this thing up, but you know what Indiana did? Opportunity shots. I'm going to take my shots down the field at points where I think it could break the game. They took the shot on the slot fade to Surratt, got there, right? They took shot after shot to Charlie Becker, who had 6 catches for 126 and a long of 51.
Were you surprised by the success that he had? Because it felt like the size gave our corners some issues, and we've watched them match up with bigger receivers throughout the season and not really have an issue.
Yeah, dude, I was surprised how Becker was getting off. Because I mean, here we go. Like Becker is a number 3 at the very best to me. And so to see him getting off like this, he's not really that fast. He's not like a hyper explosive athlete. He's a bigger body though. But to see him kind of cook Jermaine off with the release move and kind of take a shot on the field, and after Omar Cooper Jr. goes down to injury, this kid steps up. Like the fact that Indiana went next man up against Ohio State is so wildly impressive. So wildly impressive. So no, I was shocked by Becker's success because here we go. I don't think Becker's better than KJ Duff. I saw what this team did to KJ Duff, the 6'6" receiver from Rutgers.
Exactly. It felt like we talked about Tegra Shabula having a rough game. It was also a rough game for Lorenzo Styles and Jermaine Matthews. The chat's obviously pointing out that Jermaine got beat bad in the end zone for the touchdown, and also on that last play, Lorenzo Styles. Everyone saw that coming. You saw the pass interference in the first half. We had a halftime space. Everybody mentioned it in halftime space. They are going to beat us in the slot on Lorenzo. He's not able to. It is a mismatch. They've already identified the fish on the defense, and they came right back to it in the second half. Were you surprised that the Buckeyes didn't have an answer for it?
I am, because it felt like Indiana was just going to keep going to the well until they, came up with an answer for it. Indiana's OC is a wide receiver coach as well. And so his specialty is like, okay, like if there is a point on the release where it's like, all right, we can beat somebody, we're just going to keep going to it until they adjust. And it didn't feel like Ohio State adjust, or maybe, we saw Devin Sanchez in there every now and again, but it just felt like these corners had no answer for this group of Indiana receivers. So kudos to Indiana's players. I mean, they played really, really well. And Mendoza wasn't great the entire day, but made some really important throws when it really mattered.
He made the throws when it mattered. Kris, before the game, this was billed as the matchup for the Heisman, and it felt like the moment got to Julian Saying. Kris, how frustrated were you with that first interception? Because I don't know if I'm at the point that our play calling has become so predictable, or I just watched this team too much. Because when we got into that play, the announcer said, Indiana's known for this zone coverage. I'm like, what's Ohio State's go-to third down zone beater? You've seen that hitch concept a gazillion times on the film breakdowns. It normally goes to Carnell Tate because everyone crashes down on Brandon Ennis. The safety comes in and jumps the route. Julian is late getting off of Carnell, fires it into Brandon Ennis, and they intercept it. And I'm like, if Ron James, Hall of Fame Twitter coach, saw that, I would imagine Indiana's defense saw that, and they jump it on the first possession. Is this becoming a habit? We saw Will Howard have this struggle where he was having these boneheaded type of turnovers early in games. Are you worried about the recent turnover struggles from Saying in the last 2 games?
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried with kind of the looseness and drive one. And here we go. Like against Michigan, they were able to bounce back. And how are they able to bounce back? It was with the Bo Jackson drive right afterwards, right? But when Julian's Saying, if he's continuously loose with the ball in the first quarter, what do we see? So we see Ryan Day tighten up, because Ryan Day almost tightened up in the Michigan game. Hand off Bo Jackson, dump off to Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson just turned into a freak that drive and kind of, got Ryan Day to loosen back up. But this game, there wasn't that on the second drive. And so, Julian Saying being loose with the ball in the middle of the field, I think maybe contributed to the conservative game plan. But no, it's a little bit of accuracy arrogance, I feel like, from Julian Saying, like feeling like, okay, I can fit that ball in there when I really shouldn't or can't. And that kind of bugs me a little bit. But also, like, look, like if Indiana had the read, they had the read.
They had the read. We have the Heisman in the center of the graphic. At one point, it felt like both of these guys were trying to give the Heisman away to Diego Pavia. Do you think that Fernando Mendoza did enough? I think given the context and everything that this Indiana team accomplished, giving it to a 2-loss SEC team or SEC quarterback would be a travesty.
Yeah, I think Fernando locked it up today. He locked it up. Didn't play great, but had some big enough moments, right? I mean that the throw he had on 3rd and 6, that's a Heisman ball. And, I know that neither quarterback played elite today, but the thing that I love about Indiana's game plan and Mike Shanahan's game plan is that even though Fernando Mendoza didn't have his best stuff, they still said, hey, look, we need some big moments from you today. It felt like instead of that from Julian Saying, they were like, all right, we're going to hand the ball off today. And that was the frustrating thing, I think, down the stretch, right? Because, I mean, like per the numbers, like, Julian Saying played better, but what are we going to remember from this game? The big Fernando throws.
Absolutely. Kris, I wanted to ask you about the pressure that Indiana was able to get on Julian Saying. It was easily the most rattled that he's been all season, most likely due to the 5 sacks
Yeah.
that Indiana was able to get against the Buckeyes, one shy of how many they got against Oregon. Did you expect this Indiana team to be able to get after the Buckeyes like this? You saw the success that they had against Oregon. They don't really rotate on their edges. They have 4 guys that they're comfortable rotating on the interior. I was interested to see, are they going to be able to still have that same success getting pressure in the second half? And they were a terror all game.
Yeah, we know what they do that I think it presents a challenge, especially to Tegra. Tegra's good when it's like bull rush stuff, right? Like when people are just coming into his chest, there's not a lot of communication. I know what my assignment is. Like that's when Tegra is at least passable. Indiana, they're a little bit smaller in the D line, and they do so many stunts, slants. They try to mix things up. They try to confuse offensive lines. So it's a little bit of a different challenge, like a Michigan, because Michigan, they're just like, well, we're bigger, faster, stronger. We're just gonna like push forward, right? Like we're gonna keep it simple because we're great at keeping it simple. Indiana, they throw so much complex stuff at you that if you are not like sound in your communication and sound and passing things off, they could create some havoc, which is why their havoc rating is #1 in America. And that's what they did. They created a ton of havoc, right? Like it just felt like there was havoc.
Absolutely. I mean, what's the famous saying? They are who we thought they were. I mean,
Mhm.
this is a team that all season has been able to get after the passer and create pressure for quarterbacks, and as well as has been the #1 red zone touchdown percentage team in the nation. The Buckeyes come in struggling in the red zone, and they get shown up against this Indiana defense this week.
Yeah, 100%. Who do you think won the coaching matchup today?
Uh,
Uh,
Curt
This, this is huge for Sig, right?
Yeah, this was huge for Sig. I mean, Indiana has not beat Ohio State in my entire lifetime. The last win they got over the Buckeyes was 1988. This is Kris. This was the first 1 versus 2 matchup in 108 conference championship games in the history of conference championship games. This is the first one the Buckeyes lose and fall to 5-3 in 1 versus 2 matchups. I mean, this is validation for Cignetti.
No,
They
huge.
got the
This is perfect, right? Like this is like he's been trying to tell people that like this team is so legit, and people still don't buy it. But like he told us what they were gonna do. I mean, they've earned the #1 overall seed. His only 2 losses against while he's at Indiana are against who? Notre Dame and Ohio State, 2 teams that played for Natty a year ago. Then year 2, he just completed a 13-0. Like this is a really really good football team, and this was huge for the brand of Indiana moving forward.
Absolutely huge for the brand of Indiana. I know he has to. If I'm Curt Cignetti, I'm on the phone with donors running the money up, and it's going to be interesting. I feel like this is going to be the first team that challenges the validity of the blue chip ratio.
Yeah, no, they will. If Indiana wins a national title, and actually, I'd argue right now they're going to change the fabric and how teams are evaluated and how teams are looked at because this is incredible. Like, and the way they're doing it is with really good evaluation, not rotating a ton, but also like making sure that well, they're doing it with elite coaching. That's it. They're doing it with elite coaching and elite evaluation. And here's the scariest thing about Sig, dog. This is what people don't realize. People don't realize that Sig is an elite recruiter. He's the recruiter single-handedly responsible for 2 major recruits that I don't think anybody realizes. You know who they are?
Julio Jones
And Mark Ingram.
he
He was a part of that Saban staff, and those guys had to recruit. And right now, he's building the brand up so we can start recruit. Right now, he's doing it with blocks.
He's doing it with blocks. Famously, Hassan Whiteside asked the question after getting a triple double: who out here is doing it with blocks?
Mhm.
Curt Cignetti is out here doing it with blocks, but I'm not surprised, Kris. He's a Pittsburgh legend.
Bang.
He's PSAC legend, and you know how fond I am of the Pittsburgh people and people from the PSAC. They made the joke on the broadcast when people signed up to work for Cignetti at Indiana, did they think they were signing up for this Indiana? And it was actually Indiana, Pennsylvania. So see
good.
Cignetti elevate not only Indiana, Pennsylvania, but also the Indiana Hoosiers to their first Big Ten championship, a team that is the all-time losingest team in college football history. Gets it done, beat the Buckeyes for the first time in 30 years, the first time in my lifetime, and get their first Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
You have to applaud Indiana as the better team on the field today. They outcoached the Buckeyes. They out-physicaled the Buckeyes, and they earned their first Big Ten championship.
Bingo. That's all. That's all. Get us out of here, Ron.
Despite the loss, Kris, you know how this thing ends. It's always go Bucks. And, of course, OH.
IO.